What's going on, fight fans? Thank you guys for tuning in to another edition of the main event right here on Franchise Sports Media. I'm Kalani along with Griff and Kim. Griff, how we doing, my man?
Howdy, my brother. How you doing?
Man, I tell you, Griff, I'm doing pretty good.
Good.
Fights are all chiming. It's the fall season, brother. It's the most wonderful time. Ding, ding, ding.
I love it, baby. Fuck the colors, everything. The weather. It's
beautiful
time of year.
It's beautiful, and I'll tell you what was beautiful. Seeing Shakur Stevenson in the squared circle do what he does best. Now, unfortunately, we're going to get into the issues of his weight cutting, but Shakur Stevenson goes in there, ESPN, main villain, Friday Night Fights, that's you, and you go in there and you put on a fantastic show against a very game opponent. You go in there, he wins, doesn't retain the titles, but it looks like he's just giving those up anyways. Shakur Stevenson fighting at 130, says now he's moving up to 135, missed the weight cut, a limit of 130. We'll dive into that after we go over, but just in seeing the fight and knowing what type of fighter Shakur Stevenson is, Griff, what did you take away from it?
He looked good. He looked really good. You know, when guys, a lot of times when they miss these weight cuts and they're unable to get in there and do it, I'm surprised to see a lot of them actually go into their fights, the ones who still stick with the bouts. They still look good. They still look healthy. A lot of times people think they miss the weight cuts because it's a health issue, an injury or something like that. But most of the time they come in and they put out great performances. Shakur Stevenson looked strong. He didn't look like there was any issues. A couple of low blows. A couple. But, you know, that's the world of boxing.
That is the world of boxing.
But no, he looked really good. I think he's moving up to 135. I think it could be a good move for him.
Very much so. And you know, you bring up a good point in both boxing and in mixed martial arts. We've seen the guys who miss the weight, they tend to look pretty good. Now, granted, they have a few extra pounds on them.
Weren't having to dehydrate as much. Not
they didn't have to dehydrate so much. And then there's also that extra motivation of wanting to go out there and prove yourself. Yeah. Like, for whatever reason, like you pointed out, whether it was an injury, an illness, something was off with the scale. Charles Oliveira. I trained for this fight. I'm coming in here high energy, highly motivated. I'm looking to kick your butt. I'm looking to show you that I'm the better fighter. All this build up, this is the time. Yeah, I'm a few pounds overweight. Not my intention to be unprofessional like that. But, Griff, that brings me to a very interesting point here. Weight cutting. What are we going to do with it? We see the issues in boxing. We definitely see it in mixed martial arts, most notably in the UFC. Guys missing weight, coming in a few pounds heavier. In your mind, from your perspective, what is something combat sports can do to try to maybe minimize or get rid of the issues that they have when it comes to weight cutting for fighters?
I'm a purist of sport, you know? And I see the issues with weight cutting. I know it is a problem. We're having big names. We're all this money's getting invested into these fights just for fighters who are trying to cut every pound of their bodies just to make this weight. Try to go from a 210-pound guy trying to cut down to 170 and using these crazy, pretty health hazardous cuts. But here's the thing. I mean, there's methods of like new weight classes or restrictions on how much you can cut. I'm under the thought that this is just it's part of the sport. It is part of the sport. I have the same problem if we move over into football. I have the same problem with all these different rule changes when it comes to how you can hit the quarterback or how you can hit a receiver. Yes. Is it dangerous? Absolutely. Is it bad for their health? Yes. Is it going to save money because athletes aren't getting as injured? Yes. But I'm a purist. I love the violence of the sport. The sport is it's down to one thing only, and this is what I truly believe. The sport is not about entertainment. It is entertainment. It is the company that puts on these sports, they're all about entertainment. They're all about money and everything. But when it comes down to sports, which man is better, which woman is better at this activity, no matter how dangerous it is, with everything that comes with it, who is better? And then comes to combat sports. If you can make the cut, and if you can do it healthy, and you can do it without missing weight and causing the company money and doing all these things, that's the way I think it should go. But we live in the real world.
Let me guess. Back in your day, You were just thankful to be out there playing. In fact, you guys walked to games, 5 miles, uphill, in the snow, in both directions. No shoes, no pads. You just went out there just because. They could have paid you $1. Heck, you would have did it for free. Because back in your day, when men were men and people were tough, we went, man, if you don't miss me with all that nonsense, this is not the what? The 908 AC? No, BD before... BC. This is not 908. Whenever the Olympics were started, this is not that. It is entertainment. And yes, while we want to see who the best is, that's entertaining. That lifestyle you want to live as an athlete comes from entertainment value. Doesn't come because, we're purists and we want to say, yes. There is a pureness to the sport. That comes naturally. But everything else, the commercials, the previews, the jerseys, the trailers, all the walkout, the music, the lights, the fireworks, that's all part of the entertainment value. Yes. And if I have a business and I have set amount of fighters, guess what? I want you guys to make weight. I want you guys to be able to headline these cards that I put together. I want you guys to be able to come out there and not have the headlines be the day or two before that, we had to change things around. This guy misses weight. Going into that fight with Shakur Stevenson this past Friday, that's all we heard was about him missing the weight. Now, granted, it is unfortunate how unhealthy it is. And like you pointed out, there are some fighters who are cutting close to 50 pounds.
They are.
Trying to get down. It's like, buddy, just move up. Just move up. But that's part of the advantage you want.
Can I give you an example? If let's say they do decide to put in some kind of restrictions, like a fighter can't lose a X amount of weight. That way, preserve the fighter's health, preserve any, take out the risk of them not making weight, the whole fight and the whole cards of Saturday night are just blown up. If those rules were in place, do you know that we wouldn't have the career of one Khabib Nurmagomedov? Khabib is notorious for being a ginormous lightweight.
Very much so.
Ginormous lightweight.
Very much so.
A couple times, they weren't very, there wasn't a lot of publication on it. There wasn't a lot of attention on it. He did miss weight a couple times.
That's because the main event wasn't around, but we are here now. We are definitely going to be bringing it to you.
Always,
but
baby, always.
What if they had a 165-pound division? Now, boxing has this, and don't get me wrong, yes, Shakur Stevenson did miss weight. So it's not like them having more divisions takes away fighters missing weight. It does happen, but not nearly as often as it does in the UFC. Not nearly as much as it does in MMA. Yet in the UFC, in mixed martial arts, and we say the UFC just because they are the leading brand, the leading organization for mixed martial arts. We all get it.
All of it, yeah.
But if they add more divisions, that then could kind of eliminate you trying to cut yourself down as small as possible. Remember when Conor McGregor would make 145? He looked like Skeletor.
He looked scary.
Khabib at 55. That was scary at times. Kamaru Usman getting down to 170. I don't know how he does it, because when he stands next to light heavyweights, he looks like a light heavyweight.
Yep.
But when you throw in the fact that, okay, we're cutting all this weight, we're taking these chances to have any small advantage we can. Look at the risk we're running as well. But if we did a different weight class, let's just say this, Griff. Every 10 pounds, 125, 135, 145, 155, 165, 75, 85, 95, 205. And just for the sake of argument, let's say from 225, we go to 205, we go to 225. Cruiserweight. Then we go into 265. Now we got the big boys. In fact, I don't even know why there's a weight limit for heavyweights. There shouldn't be one, but okay.
We can't have no 400-pound boy in there, man.
Why not?
We can't have no sumo wrestler up in that joint.
First off, you don't have to be in some type of shape to go in there and do that. Second off, can you imagine?
Can you imagine a Derek Lewis coming in about 310, 320?
Look, I know he's older and he may never come back, but I would love to see Derek Lewis versus a Brock Lesnar. No weight limits. I'm excited.
So much gruesome.
But you add in the extra weight. Now, when it's been brought up to Dana White in the past, why not add more divisions? He makes the argument. It'll be like boxing where everything's watered down and it's not as important, but here's where he misses it.
Yes. Yep.
And I've always been frustrated no one has countered it. It's not the amount of divisions that is watered down boxing. It's the amount of champions in every division. It's the amount of champions. There's 10 champions every division.
Yes.
No, UFC. You keep your one champion, but you throw in more divisions. Now you could say, well, wouldn't that take away from the welterweights and the lightweights if we make a 65-pound division? Did featherweight take away from the lightweight division?
No.
Did bantamweight take away from the featherweight division?
At times, it hasn't been as much in the spotlight because of those
that goes up and down though. That's every division. Look at 205. Once John Jones left, there was a nice hole for a few years where we're like, who exactly at 205 is supposed to be the dominant one?
Yes.
You go through that.
I see what you're saying.
Right?
Yes,
Before Anderson Silva, middleweight kind of had, Rich Franklin, Anderson Silva. Now Izzy's there. He's kind of made it consistent where, hey, look at the amount of assassins I have here in line. Divisions go up and down. That happens all the time. But with the amount of fighters, especially in that 45 to 85 range that are out there in the entire world, you throw in more divisions, now we're going to see better versions of fighters. We're going to see better matchups. And I thoroughly believe it won't be 100% because nothing ever is besides death and taxes. But we would probably see less weight cuts missed. We just had Aspen Ladd, a female fighter, get cut from the UFC because she's missed weight like 7,427 times. I looked it up, Griff. Don't challenge the numbers. I looked it up.
You're good at counting. I believe you.
I'm very good at counting. I went to public school in the inner city, so my math is good.
Shouts out Clark County.
Wink, wink. Mine was in California, though. Anyways, we're getting off track. But more divisions, I think, would be better for the sport. As you brought up football, does anybody say anything when a defensive tackle hits the running back?
Not a thing.
If the linebacker at 240 lays out that slot receiver, who we know.
Oh, they say, no.
Who we know. No. But I'm saying, he could lay him out, right? We know that slot receiver ain't nowhere close to 200 pounds.
No.
185 is being generous. 190, he's out of shape. But yet, that linebacker who's 230, 220, they could spear him.
Yes. Here's what I would say. And this is my the big point I want to make with this. I'm not saying definitively it takes away from the competition within the divisions, but what I'm saying is because, like you said, when these fighters are cutting weight, men and women, they're taking away from themselves a little bit. They're taking away. They're trying to get down so low they can only have a certain amount of muscle on their bodies. They're draining themselves. It's not healthy. This isn't exercise. This is manipulating your body to a point of unhealthy risks.
Very much so.
So, but that being said, Kamaru Usman at 170, one of the strongest welterweights we've ever seen.
Probably the strongest.
Khabib Nurmagomedov, 155. Who looks stronger in that weight division? Who's ever looked stronger than Khabib in that weight division?
Nobody. From a physical standpoint, nobody.
So that's the point I'm trying to make is like these fighters are cutting weight. You got bigger bodies trying to get into lower weight classes. And it's done in high school wrestling. It's done in college wrestling. It's done in the pros of all combat sports. It's these bigger bodies who I'm sure there's some kind of scale out there. There's some kind of data where they say what type of body type should be in what weight classes with a healthy weight cut. But the thing is, with the freedom they have to cut weight, these fighters can go, instead of being a welterweight, they can cut down and be a lightweight. And now they're competing against guys that are much lighter than them. And then it's not just one fighter doing that. It's a whole corral of fighters doing it. And that's what's making the competition so elite, so hard to get past. And that's where you see a lot of great runs of champions, because they probably should be in heavier weights, but they're getting down there. They're fighting against guys who are probably not as strong as them, maybe guys who can't make that cut, who are smaller bodies. So there's positives and negatives. I get what you're saying, though.
Just like with Georges St. Pierre. Georges St. Pierre, for the longest time, we wanted to see him fight Anderson Silva. The GOAT at welterweight, the GOAT at middleweight. Let's see if they can fight each other. But because Anderson Silva definitely walking around at 210, 215-ish, GSP's like, buddy, 190, 195, I'm a tub of goo. That's too much for me. That's too much of a weight disparity for us to fight. Now, granted, you can always, for a fight, try to say, what if you can only rehydrate to a certain amount? And maybe they didn't put that in. When you fight, you meet this weight class, because let's be honest, they're only that weight for 15 seconds.
Yes.
They're 2 minutes at the most.
When they're walking in the cage, they're fully rehydrated.
Yes. Like you said, when you brought up some fighters in Kamaru and Khabib, we've seen some fighters you was 173 weight classes ago. But that further goes into, what's the point in having the weight class then? What's the point in us weighing in at 170 if Kamaru Usman could rehydrate to 200 pounds? When Thiago Alves challenged Georges St. Pierre at UFC 100, it was reported he was tipping the scales at 199 and 200 the night of the fight. One night later, 30 pounds difference. Why cut down to 170? But if you throw in the fact and you say, well, he's not as big as the guys who fight at the next division. Well, that's because it's a 15-pound difference. Yep. From middleweight at 185 to light heavyweight, that's a 20-pound difference, 185 to 205. But if there's something in the middle at 195, hey, wait a minute now. Now I could try to work my way up. And now that jump, if I do go to 205, I have a stopping point in the middle, gives me a chance for matchups there, possibly win another title, add to my resume. We all love the gold, bling, bling.
Yep.
But now that lets me see, am I good enough to move up in weight? Because what if I move up a weight class that's not there? Khabib moves up to 165. What if he's no longer the strongest one? What if he's no longer the fastest one, the most dominant one? Now he realizes I can't go to welterweight. I can either stay at 65 or go back down to 155. But now I know, but if I make that jump to 170 and I'm taking on these guys and now I look small, I look average, it's tough. It's tough. I definitely feel, and I know a lot of people out there feel it, there should be more weight divisions added. Hopefully that's the case. You don't need more titles. No. The more titles would just be the champions of the divisions. You don't need the WBC, the WIBA, the IBF, the IHOP, the Denny's Bowl, the IPP, the IPA. You don't need all those champions. All you just need is the one champion of the division and to see how it goes from there.
Sounds like a Grand Slam division, if you ask me.
I'm speaking of food, and you just said Grand Slam. And I know what I'm having tonight for dinner.
I like mine with bacon.
So good, so good. In fact, I substitute out the sausage, and I get bacon all the way. If they let me, I would take out the pancakes of French. You know what? We're talking about food. We're talking about food.
Yeah. Come on.
Talking about food and talking about eating. Mm-hmm. Somebody wants to be fed.
Yeah.
And he wants to be fed the American Nightmare. Khamzat Chimaev wants to fight Colby Covington.
Yep.
At welterweight. The UFC, very frustrated with the fact that, hey, buddy, you're missing weight the way that you are. Mm-hmm. Don't necessarily want to have you moving back down here for, say, another high-profile fight. If you're the UFC, Khamzat wants Colby. Colby's the biggest name. Khamzat's a rising star. What do you do with that? Do you take that risk because he did miss the Diaz one? Mm-hmm. Do you maybe say fight someone else at welterweight and show us you can make it? Or no, buddy, you got to go to 185.
I don't think it's a problem with him fighting, not necessarily fighting another name at welterweight to prove himself to get Kobe. I think he's proven enough to get Kobe. I honestly do. But his fight with Gilbert, I think his fight with Gilbert Burns alone gave him enough cachet to be legit in that ring with Kobe. Yes.
What?
Who else would you want him to fight after Burns?
He beats one guy in the top 10, and he was already worthy of fighting the number one contender.
The number 3rd ranked fighter in that division.
It was one guy, Griff.
Okay, Kobe's number 1. Who was number 2 at the time? Who's number 2 right now?
No. I'm not going on. What I'm saying is he beats one guy.
The hype he has.
Barely beats him. Not barely. It was a tough competitive bout. And you want to give him the number 1 contender already?
This cat's got so much hype around him, and he's looked dominant. He's fought in Gilbert Burns, and he looked raw against Gilbert Burns, and he still got out there with a win.
You've been cutting weight?
I'm cutting the bullshit. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm getting straight to the facts.
Good stuff.
And what I'm saying is, I wouldn't have a problem with him fighting Colby Covington. But here's the thing. One, if I'm UFC, if I'm Dana White, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, there's a little too much risk with this. There's too much preventing this from happening. One, he missed weight getting down to 170 last time.
Yes.
Couldn't get down there. Two, what does this do for Colby Covington? I mean, Colby Covington, yes. Right now, Edwards has the belt.
If he fights Khamzat?
What does that do for Colby?
You just took one. You lost to the champion, who's now the number 1 contender. You lost to him twice.
Yeah.
2, you take out the boogeyman. You take out the one that nobody apparently wants to fight. You take out the rising star. That makes your star even bigger. And look, I don't know what Kobe's going to do. But after the incident with Jorge Masvidal at the restaurant where Jorge ran up on him, does that maybe change Kobe's mindset and how he wants to approach it? You're going to take on a guy here where you can easily, in a way, can I play the good guy role? You missed weight last time, buddy. You missed it, not me. Can he maybe switch the cards around, i.e. Chael Sonnen? Remember when Chael Sonnen first fought Anderson Silva, all the trash talking he did, trash talking. And even though he lost, he put up a great performance. So much so that going forward, his trash talking became more comical. It became more funny. Like, okay, Chael, what do you got for me? So much so that him and Anderson were kind of laughing at stuff the second time around. We haven't seen that from your boy McGregor. Kobe could maybe change his image flip things around and say, okay, listen, because by all accounts, we've heard nothing but good things from coaches and some of the fighters who know him, that he's a good dude.
Not Dan Hooker.
Well, not Dan Hooker,
not
but
Dan Hooker.
but there's guys like Joe Rogan, Cameron Haynes. There's several others who have said he's actually a pretty nice guy. He puts on this character and this act because that's what sells. But he's a fairly decent, nice guy, and it's very possible. But does he maybe want to show that side of him more to say, listen, I can maybe talk some cringy trash and still sell? Again, like Chael Sonnen. Because if you try to go along this line of always being the villain, look where your boy McGregor is at. You can't tell me his last 3 fights, Khabib and 2 against Poirier, that his trash talking was that good. You can't even take no sound bites away from it because it was so bad. Because it's hard to play the villain for a long period of time because at some point you're just gonna come off looking like an ass.
I'll give it to this. I'll give Kobe this. Kobe Covington's what would you call it? His persona, his act, his show and tell when the cameras are open. It's good because it's
very
not
good.
Because it's not sincere, because it's not truly him, and that's why I'm saying I don't see him changing this up. I don't see him changing this because he put this act on. He started doing this when the UFC was telling him, "We're gonna cut you. You're boring. You ain't doing anything." Then he goes down to Brazil and calls them all filthy animals.
Yeah,
That is what made him get. That is what helped him get to where he is at today. Which, if Kamaru's number 1, then he's probably what, 2. I haven't checked the rankings.
Well, he's like 1B. He will be number 2 because Leon's a champion now. But Kobe's an established name now.
He's an established.
We know what he can do. We've seen him in big fights. We know now that his fight style is not necessarily boring. Look. You fight the way the Kobe fights, you do that on the prelims, it's a boring card. You do that in the main event against the champion, hey, this guy's a competitor.
Yes.
So we know now he's an established guy, so he doesn't necessarily have to keep this act up anymore. He can switch it up. And if you take on someone like Hamza and you defeat him, you now change the persona, beat the scariest guy in the division.
Here's the problem, though. Here's the problem.
Okay.
Kobe Covington. I think we all can agree. We've all heard enough about when he's talked and what his goals are. He wants to be a champion.
Of course.
And when he decided to turn on the act and put on this switch and read Donald Trump Jr.'s book on stage on the press conference, he did all of this with one goal in mind, which is, I want to be a champion.
Yes.
He fought Kamaru twice.
And lost.
Very great fights, beautiful fights, and lost twice. So now I would say if I'm Kobe Covington, what I'm thinking to myself is, I'm not doing a damn thing. I'm not doing a damn thing right now until I see what's happening until that second fight with Edwards and Usman.
You already know that's going to be a rematch.
They already know it's going to be a rematch.
Who else is out there for you right now?
But who else is out there that does anything more for you? Because like you say, you're the 1B contender. Hamza, all it does is, it shines your name up a little bit, but there's a lot of risk too. What if but there's a lot of risk. Lots of risk.
There's plenty of risk. Don't get me wrong. This will be no walk in the park. I don't know why the hell you got me defending Kobe Covington, that jackass. You do this all the time, Griff. You do this all the time. You got me defending the guys I don't want to defend, but nonetheless, if he takes it on, because you said initially you wouldn't take it on.
I wouldn't take it on.
And I'm saying because you said what would be the benefit. I'm saying to take out the guy who everyone's afraid to take on. Yeah, that's a huge benefit. We know what Dana White likes to do for fighters who either step in and does the UFC a solid or is willing to take on the fight. We've seen it time and time again. If you're willing to step to the plate, even if you strike out, I got you. It's not going to hurt you so much because you did what no one else was willing to do. Just like he says, everyone claims that they'll fight anybody. Only a handful of guys on my roster I can text, and they'll tell me, send me location. Doesn't matter. We've heard it all before. So only a handful only a handful of guys do that. Dana looks out for them. Kobe does this again now, changes persona, takes on a guy that can shine up his name in a brighter light, and gets in a better line with Dana White, more on a little friendly matter. Then he now has more of a claim to say, however things play out. Let's say Leon Edwards wins. Now I have a bigger claim to fight Leon, as opposed to being a guy that just lost 2 fights and I haven't fought anybody since.
Okay, so here's what I'd ask you this then. If I'm Kobe Covington, and if Dana, I'd say the only reason it's worth the risk of taking on this unknown. We know guys who are established.
He's not unknown.
No. guys don't like the big names, the guys who are at the top. They don't like taking up these up and comers because it is, you don't know what you're going to see.
Yeah.
You haven't fought them before. They obviously are pretty damn good. They're getting in the position they're in.
Very much so.
I would say if I'm Colby Covington, the only reason I'm taking this fight is if Dana White sits down and makes me a promise and says, hey, you go in there, you beat, if you beat this guy, if you beat this crazy wolf, this nasty up and comer.
Give me everybody. I kill everybody.
If you take him on, you beat him, we're making the trilogy. I don't care you have 2 losses. We'll make the trilogy.
But see,
And that's if Usman wins.
But see, but it sells better if you come off a victory. It's hard to sell Colby getting a title shot next if he doesn't have a win.
Well, it is if the title is held by Kamaru Usman.
If it's Kamaru Usman, what if Edwards goes in there and clean shop with him? No need to do a trilogy then. If I go in there, knock him out the one, and then let's say the second one, I dominate him on points, 50-45 across the board, or I knock him out in the second round. We're not going to run it back for a third time right now. So then me taking on Colby works because then I could take him on. But it looks better for Colby if he's coming off a fresh victory, especially over a big name like that. Doesn't help if he's just been sitting on the couch this whole time. You're like, wait, he hasn't done anything and he's just going to be sitting on the couch? He did beat Jorge Masvidal. I'm sitting here saying he's going to have 2 losses. He did beat Jorge Masvidal. So there is that. But I would still love to see it.
I would love to see it. And here's another question too. Does Dana want to risk his little golden boy he's got bringing up? Does he want to risk Hamzat, giving him to the Chaos Covington?
I think right now, Hamzat is at the place in his career where if he stays at welterweight, you're taking on the killers. There's no way around it. I can't feed you anybody else. You're going to be in there with the Lions, and I'm sending the Wolf in there to the Lions den. If you move up to middleweight, I could maybe give you 1 or 2 fights on the way up. But when you're winning, it's only so long I can hold you off from taking on other guys where it's unknown. I mean, anytime you step in there, it's unknown. Yeah. But like Dana White has routinely said, there's no easy fights in the UFC.
No.
So I'm not here to paddle you. I'm here to throw you in the deep water, sink or swim. And if you swim, boy,
it's time to eat.
Let's go to Red Lobster. Let's make lemonade.
Hey, Wolf and the Lions Den, I got to give you that. That's hard.
That's a good one.
That's hard.
That's a good one. And since that's a good one, let's end on a high note here.
Yes, sir.
Griff, it's been a pleasure. Thank you guys for tuning in. Be sure to follow The Main Event and Franchise Sports Media across social media platforms. This is Griff and Kalani. I'm Kalani Lua. Till next time, fight fans. Peace.